Hello, AP Biology students. We're going to go over the 13th section in Unit 2. And in this section, we're going to go over something called signal pathways. This section is going to be primarily about how the different types of signal transduction accomplish their goals in different types of cells. Remember, when talking about signal transduction, a ligand will bond with a receptor of a cell and trigger a cascade throughout the cell to create some type of cellular response. And that same signaling molecule can trigger a host of different responses depending on what type of cell is receiving it. As you can see, we have a bunch of different cells here, all being targeted by a specific type of signaling molecule. But based on the type of cell that it's in, you're going to have a different type of cellular response. And this is because each type of tissue or type of cell needs to respond differently to a specific signaling molecule. And this is because each cell has a different set of secondary messengers that will actually create that response. As you can see, in each one of these cells, there are different types of secondary messengers that are going to create some different cellular response based on what is needed by that cell. For instance, adrenaline has a host of different responses based on the type of cell that is receiving that signaling molecule. For instance, glycogen synthesis is stopped while glycogen breakdown is promoted to get more glucose in the bloodstream. There's an increased heart rate and blood pressure to help with the flight or fight response. Adrenaline increases the breathing of an individual and the dilation of the pupils to get them ready to either fight or flight. But again, all of these different reactions or cellular responses are caused by the same signaling molecule activating different responses in different types of cells. Now, you also might see in a signaling transduction pathway a diagram that kind of looks like this. And there is no universal way of making these diagrams, but there are two things that I want my students to know when looking at these diagrams. The first is an arrow. This usually shows a molecule being moved or activated. As you can see in this diagram, this RIC8 molecule is going to activate whatever this alpha molecule is. You can also take a look at this protein that's going to activate some downstream signaling. These are also called bar-headed lines, and they usually show a molecule that's being inhibited. So again, you can see in this diagram, RGS is inhibiting this protein, as well as this molecule. I think it's named GoLoco. I think it's a cool name. One last thing I like to add into this section is something called cell communication disorders. This is where some part of a signal transduction pathway isn't working correctly. Either the ligand's not going to be produced, the receptor is not bonding with the ligand, or maybe one of the secondary messengers is not being produced correctly or is just not working correctly. But basically, this creates some problem within a person because this process is just not functioning. There are, again, a lot of different disorders such as like cancer, diabetes, certain neurological disorders that are caused by this signaling transduction pathway problem. And like always, we always end on a meme. You have your activated protein and your deactivated protein. Great stuff.